Hey everybody, welcome to Example of Play. In this video, I'm going to continue my Let's Learn series for Distant Worlds 2, and specifically we're going to look at characters and their uses. And now that we were a little further into the game, we got some more mature characters that have some more skills and things for them to do. And then we'll also dive a little bit into espionage, since that's part of the character type of spies. So we'll hop to it and go through each of the different character types and learn a little bit about them. All right, so as usual, we will come up here to our Empire tab and down to Policy Settings to look at the things you can automate. So if you're playing the game with the default AI automation, it will handle all your characters and have them do missions and assignments automatically. Those can be influenced by some of your other choices, which we'll kind of look at as we go through different types. But if you come to this screen, there's actually not a whole lot of options directly related to characters in general. If you look under the first one here, which kind of includes some of everything, you'll find that really the only thing directly character related for all of them across the board is character locations. And this is basically going to have them move to their optimal location. So like for your scientists, ambassadors, it's just going to place them where they should be to get the most bonus depending on their skills and traits. And then for your spies in particular, there are more options. So intelligence missions going to automate what they do. So again, you can control all of these manually on a per character basis if you want to. If you come down to intelligence missions, there are some options here. Those same two we saw in the broader section, and then also quite a few that you can choose to disable your spies carrying out certain mission types automatically. Which you can see there are a lot of options for your spies. Some are definitely more dangerous, more aggressive than others, so you might want to turn some of them off just to avoid the AI doing something you're not expecting. But for now, we'll leave it on the default where they're on. Usually these more aggressive, higher risk ones, it doesn't do automatically unless you are really pushing it in that direction with your other policy settings. And then you can also say kind of broadly here, how risky do you want to be? Mission difficulty, caution, normal. They're generally going to only do missions that have a high likelihood of success, but you can be more cautious, or you can be very aggressive in general here if you want to. And then this tab talking about counterintelligence ratio, how many of your spies are going to be on counterintelligence duty versus carrying out missions against other empires. So right now the default's 34%, so like 1 in 3 is going to be defending versus going on the offensive. And now, before I jump into the individual character types, a slight sidebar. I was going to zoom out a little. My campaign here, I've been playing another hour or two without recording a video past where the last one was. And as you can see, the galaxy is becoming a much busier place with a lot going on. I've kind of made contact with most of the other empires. Mine is bigger. I've fought another war or two. Haven't had a whole lot of success, but haven't been crushed either. But there was a couple kind of mid-game things I was going to point out. You can see that even at this point, like there's empires all over the place, but there's some areas that are still kind of empty in between, like here. That's because there's a nebula here. This is something new in Distant Worlds 2. And basically these nebulas are like kind of the terrain, kind of the mountains of Distant Worlds 2, that they, at the very least, they slow your ships down. So even after you've researched some higher level hyperspace drives, they'll slow them down a lot, where most of your automated ships are going to avoid traveling into those nebulas. And so like, for example, my capital is right here. This is where I started, and I only just discovered that there's an independent colony here that's friendly with me and that I could colonize, but they're in this nebula, so none of my exploration ships ever went there until I manually ordered one to go there, and it took it a long time to get there too. And so really the only counters to the nebulas are higher tiers of technology, gaining faster hyperdrives, and then also some of them can cause damage to your ships, like regular damage, ion damage. So researching better shields and ion protection is kind of part of what you have to do to be able to venture through there a little more easily. But that's just something to observe. You'll notice that the empires are kind of shaped by where those nebulas are. And you can see there's parts where no one is, even though it's like in the middle like right here in the middle of all these, there is a star system there, but no one's built anything. No one has any influence over them because they're in the nebulas and they're kind of being avoided. So the AI tends to avoid them. Maybe a potential spot for you to exploit as the human player when it seems advantageous to venture in there. But just be aware that's why that's happening, and that basically you need higher tiers of technology to be able to effectively go in there and use those spaces. And you can see, yeah, some of them are a little more dangerous, can actually damage your ships. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our characters now. If you come up here, you got characters tab, and you can see underneath it how many of each type you have up here, with a split between how many spies are doing counter intel versus doing offensive missions. Right now, they're all on counter intel. And then down here, we have all the characters are listed out here together under this tab, and then the spies have their own tab since they're a little more interactive, a little more active as far as your characters go, versus most of the others are just kind of placed somewhere and then you don't do much else with them. And then prisoners, which are characters from other empires that you've captured one way or another over the course of the game, and there's things you can do with them, which we'll look at as well. You can also find your characters under their various specialties. So like if you go under diplomacy, you'll see ambassadors here, spies, and prisoners, since those are all related to other empires. Underneath research, you'll find your scientists. Under fleets, you'll find your admirals and generals under the military tab. So they're split off like that, but they're all listed together here. So either way. Now we'll just talk about each type of character one at a time. First is your leader. So we have our president because we have a republic as our government type. So what kind of leader you have is going to vary depending on what government type you have, and that's going to influence how they come and go. So like a monarch is a character you might have for a long time, and then they only get replaced when they die or every so often, and it's a little more disruptive. Where with like the president, I forget how many years it is, but every so often a new one is elected. So they come and go pretty often, but it's not disruptive when they come and go. And then really your president, there's not a whole lot for them to do. They're mostly just going to hang out at your capital, and then they're going to give you some kind of bonuses, mostly could be some negatives too. So if you come over here, you can see that he's at our capital, our homeworld, Bunta 2. And we can see his skills down here. So he mostly gives us a bunch of bonuses, a little minus 5% colony happiness. And it says it's coming from a trait. So there's skills, which they can have a lot of different skills, and then traits. They can have up to 4 traits. You don't get to choose these. They come with the character. And when a character is new, you won't know necessarily what all their traits and skills are. They kind of appear over time as they gain some experience and are used. But your skills can be progressed, so they can get better if they are skills and not coming from the traits. The traits are kind of fixed, whereas the skills can be developed, and it's going to depend on partly on what you're having them do and partly on kind of random as well. So you can actually turn, some of them can even start negative and become positive over time by using that skill. But for your leader, mostly they're going to be things like the economy, research, construction, stuff like that are the skills they're going to have. He's also got plus 30% diplomacy, pretty good. And I can kind of see that right now because I'm getting a lot of trade deals and stuff from other empires, because he's got alliance builder plus 10%, diplomat plus 10%, measured and tolerant, which all add to diplomacy. So he's got really strong diplomacy plus 30%. And that's actually being reflective because we're making a lot of diplomatic deals right now. But the president comes and goes, so once he's gone, a new one's going to pop in, and that's kind of like upside of it is if you get like a bad president, a new one's going to come along pretty soon. But if you have a really good one, you want to try to use them to the best of their abilities while you've got them. And if we come down here, we could move him to a different location, but I think he just needs to be at the capital for the most part. And then all the characters can be automated or set to manual individually. So you can do that there. It's not really making much difference for him. I'm not going to move him around anyway. And then you can go to dismiss here. I'm not sure if it causes some disruption if you dismiss your president early before their election comes around. So I'm not going to click that right now. But that is basically leaders, pretty straightforward. But also we'll kind of look at, see, there's skill jumped up a little bit. Next, we'll look at ambassadors. So your ambassadors are not too different from the leader in terms of how they're used. Basically, you're going to place them instead of on your capital. You're going to place them on another empire's capital that you're wanting to influence. Now, this can be automated, and where they get sent is going to be dependent on what your settings are towards other empires diplomatically. So this is where it kind of ties in. You might have your characters automated, but be setting your policy manually, and that's going to influence like where the AI sends people. Because if we jump back over to like our diplomacy tab, we can see we have a strategy for each other empire. It can be automated what they are. You can change it to manual and pick. So like if you were wanting to become allies with some other empire, like there are the human coalitions very friendly with us. So we're set to ally with them. We've got all kinds of deals with them. And we have an ambassador has been automatically sent there. So you could have your characters set to auto, be setting your policy here manually, and the AI sends, you're going to send an ambassador to make friends with the people that you want to get allied with. And then, but basically they still work more or less the same. They've got traits, they've got skills, and being ambassadors, most of those skills are going to be related to interactions with other empires. So he's got like diplomacy bonus, and he's got some espionage bonuses, but he's also got colony happiness plus 5% that goes along with his eloquent speaker trait. So you might have him stationed on one of your worlds too to get a little extra colony happiness if you're not wanting to actively use him to improve relations with another empire. And then just looking at like our other ones, you can see this one's got quite a few skills, and they're different. He's got trade income bonus, colony corruption reduction. So, there's some other skills that go along there that aren't directly related to your diplomacy. And then we have like this guy who's a newer ambassador. He's only got 2 skills that are only plus 2%, minus 2%, and no traits yet. So as he gains experience and he hangs around, he'll gain more qualities that we can use. But let's say he comes up and just has negative ones. We don't like the ones he has. You can dismiss them here. So you could get rid of like a bad character. There's not a whole lot of penalty for getting rid of like ambassadors and generals and stuff. Though the only downside is you can't directly recruit them. They kind of come to you randomly. If you look in the Galactopedia here, it's kind of cryptic. The game doesn't tell you exactly how you get more leaders or how you get more characters or how many you can have. It basically hints like you'll get more characters related to the things you do. So like if you build a bunch of spaceships, you're going to possibly get a new admiral. If you start doing lots of diplomacy, signing lots of treaties with other empires and doing deals, you're more likely to get another ambassador. But it's not like there's no anywhere you can look to see, get +1 ambassador by doing this. It's not really there. It's a little random. It's a little cryptic, but that's okay. And then of course, as the game goes on, you're going to get more characters in general as your empire gets bigger. All right, next we'll go down here to our admirals. Now they're a little bit different from those other characters, as they're not going to be just hanging out on your capital or on another empire's capital. They're going to be actively traveling with one of your fleets for you to get the best benefit out of them. So you can see this one is with the 3rd Defense Force. This one is transferring to a different fleet, and this one he's waiting at an escape pod because his ship, apparently, I guess he somewhere in there, he got blown up trying to fight these Voidicars, which are one of the space monsters you run into that are pretty tough. The AI likes to go pick fights with them all the time, and they are much stronger than some of the ones we've seen before. So you can be wary of that. But anyway, looking here, we can see he's got lots of skills related to combat. So how fast the hyperjump is, how good the targeting is, weapons, damage control, stuff like that. He's got skills like Inspiring Presence, which increases skills of all the other characters in the same location or fleet, Natural Leader. So they're a little bit more military combat related, which makes sense. And then the main thing is, you need to assign them to one of your fleets for them to really be at the most benefit to you. As as that's how they're gonna contribute to the effort. And then you can transfer them between fleets. I don't think I've noticed yet, or mentioned yet. So if you did want to change which fleet they're in, you come down here. Let's see if we can. Actually, let's see if we can send our escape pod guy somewhere else, or if we have to actually go pick him up. Let's see if he can go to the 1st Defense Force. So we can come in there, you just pick where you want them to go, which fleet they're listed here. You could also send them to spaceports or to worlds, but we want to send him to one of the other fleets. And then it'll take a little time, and then he'll get there to that other fleet. If we go down here, generals are going to be similar to your admirals. They're going to be probably on a world or traveling with troops on a troop transport. So they're with the troops, and then of course their skills are going to be more related to ground combat and that kind of thing. This guy, he's got a minus 13% troop recruitment rate because his traits are both bad. He's a poor recruiter and a drunk, which just makes him kind of just pure negative traits here. No, there's no upside to these. So he's like one that maybe we should dismiss because he's slowing down our troop recruitment. His beneficial stuff is okay, but not that great. So maybe we'll fire him. And yeah, we're going to get rid of him. And then we'll hope that we get a new general comes along because we don't need a drunken general that nobody likes. And then finally for our regular character types is the scientist. And so these guys are going to have traits mostly related to research, of course. So he's got all research. He's got a pretty nice bonus, but then also specifically hyperdrive research and weapons research. And then some of his traits are a little different as well. So he has creative, increases the chance of a critical research success or failure. So you're kind of a little more high risk, high reward when he is researching stuff. He has destructive, so that ties into, gives him that weapons research. And then patriot, which I thought this one's kind of interesting, decreases the success rate of other empires using the steel tech espionage against us while we have him. So not every trait is just straight giving you a plus or minus to one of your skills. Some of them are a little different, a little unique, giving you an extra perk of some other type there. And then for your scientists, they need to be placed on a research facility for them to be most effective. If you put them on one that kind of lines up with the kind of research they're doing, kind of makes sense. But the main important thing is they just need to be on a research facility. Now, one thing the game mentions is that stacking characters in the same location can give you diminishing returns. So like you might not want to have if you have scientists that have similar bonuses, you wouldn't want them to all be at the same place because you're not going to they won't stack linearly. There's kind of a diminishing return on that. So you want to, generally speaking, you want to spread your characters out. Though I could imagine a scenario that might be a little different is like if you're invading, you got like a big battle fleet that's got, a couple good admirals, a good general to lead your troops on the ground. You'd have all those guys together in that one fleet to give you a big bonus to it. Versus the other ones, generally they're going to be spread out and doing their own thing and not all stacked together. Okay, so now let's pop over to the Spies tab here and talk a little bit more about them. Now, Spies, like I mentioned, are a little different in that they have a lot of missions they can go on. We have 4 right now. They're all set to do counterintelligence because we're not being too aggressive towards anybody at the moment. But you can go in here. They're automated right now. We could turn off automation for individual characters if we want to. So we could have like one spy who we're just personally directing. We can see he's got skills and traits just like the other characters. But for spies, these can be really important because they're not just bonuses for your empire. They factor into, can this spy pull off a mission you sent them on? Are they going to get captured or possibly killed on a mission? So we come down here, see right now, they're just doing counterintelligence. We can assign them a different mission by canceling that. And now you get a menu with quite a few options. So you can come in here and select from all the different empires and pirate factions that you've encountered. So we'll just pick Independent Space League. That's one of the pirates at random there. And then what kind of mission you want to do. So against them, there's several different missions. If we pull up the Gazurian Horde, our arch nemesis, we can see there's a few more options here. The most of these are kind of self-explanatory, but we won't talk through all of them. But there are things like stealing a territory map, which is pretty easy, 85% chance that'll we'll pull that off, down to stuff like destroying a facility or inciting a rebellion. Those are going to be a little harder to do. So like a 21% chance and a pretty high chance that they're going to get captured. But it depends on which world also. So for like that, which world do we want to incite on? Some are going to be easier than others depending on various factors. And then also you can give them different amounts of time. If you try to do it in 1 month, that's going to lower it even further, versus usually it's 12 months to give them take a little longer, but a better chance of success. We could also look at some good ones, or like research information has a pretty high chance of success. You can send them out to steal some research from an enemy, just as you could do diplomacy and get those things, either buy them or trade them, or get a research agreement with other empires to research that way peacefully. You can also just steal technology from other empires with a pretty decent chance of success. And then there are, lots of other options as well. And the success rate is just going to depend on what your target is within those different categories. And then part of your strategy with your spies to not get them killed is to not send them on really difficult missions early on. Start them off on just doing counterintelligence to let them build up reveal what their skills are, possibly let them build those up a little bit. That'll make them a little stronger as spies and ready to go do other missions. And then give them easy missions first before you try to give them harder missions. And then probably, generally speaking, don't do some of the really difficult ones unless it's part of your overall strategy. Not something to do willy-nilly, because you could lose that character forever trying to do something that's got a really low chance of success. And then just to kind of recap what I mentioned before, you could have a spy set to automatic, and other things that you're setting will determine kind of what missions the AI is going to assign them to automatically if you don't want to control them manually. So like, as I mentioned, if you have your diplomacy set to like try to ally with someone, your spies aren't going to be stealing from them or trying to sabotage their bases or anything like that. Versus if you're trying to militarily defeat them, then let's go ahead and be aggressive against them, because we don't care if they don't like us. If we get caught trying to do a mission against them and they get mad, it doesn't matter, because we're trying to fight them anyway. And then also you can go in here under the intelligence missions, and you can set your general aggressiveness and caution. And then also you can turn off specific mission types across the board if you want to. Like if you don't ever want to incite a rebellion, you can just turn that off, and then your spies won't do that mission at all. So it gives you a little broad control without having to manually assign every mission. But I think that with the spies, that's kind of one of the things that's a little bit fun to manually control sometimes, like picking and choose what kind of research you want them to try to steal. Or like one case, I had a pirate faction that kept harassing me. I didn't want to make a deal with them because I was trying to cut off all those protection agreements with them. And so I used my spy to steal their territory map, which revealed to me where their base was at. And then I was able to go just attack them and destroy their base and get rid of them that way. So you can use spies like that. All right, and then finally we'll look at prisoners. So these you can capture a few different ways. The spy, we have one spy here who we probably captured. They're trying to do a mission against us, and so whenever that happens, sometimes they'll pull it off. We don't even know what happened. Sometimes we'll catch them in the act, but they'll get away. Sometimes they could be captured, they could be killed, and that same thing can happen to your spies. They can become prisoners of another empire. And so whenever they become your prisoner, basically they sit in jail till you decide what you want to do with them. And you can come in here, you can see their stats just like your characters. And then you can have a few other options here. So you can try to recruit them. So like if you manage to capture some really great character, so like this admiral that we defeated him in battle and scooped him up, and we look here and he's actually got a lot of positive traits. We could try to recruit him into our empire and become one of our characters. So this is one way you actually can directly add to your character pool. It's not guaranteed, but it could happen. We can return them to the empire they came from. So maybe we caught an enemy spy or a spy from another empire, but we're not really trying to, we don't want to fight with them. We're trying to build our relations, so we can turn that into a bonus for us diplomatically. You can throw them in as part of diplomatic deals as well, or we could execute them, which is basically just going to get rid of them and make that other empire mad. Which maybe we're wanting to pick a fight with somebody, and we happen to have one of their characters, so we could do that just to make them mad and push things towards war, maybe a fight that we want anyway. So basically, that is your options with the prisoners here. All right, so I think that covers the basics of all the different character types. Espionage, you could probably talk a little more about strategy on using your spies in the different missions, but most of it's pretty straightforward, and I'll leave that to you, kind of part of the fun of the game of picking what kind of missions to send your spies on and stuff. That'll do it for this video. I'm not sure what the topic of the next one will be. Might just keep running this game a little bit more and see what comes up. I know one area I haven't looked at yet is like the financials. Been letting the AI do that, but there's probably some fine points to talk about there. We could talk about ship design and components a little bit, just as a not an in-depth guide to that, because I'm not even going to try it, but just go in there and maybe we'll design a ship and find like an example of maybe a custom ship you'd want to make that the AI wouldn't normally make for maybe a particular use, things like that. And then I'll see if I just get this game into, we're kind of in the mid game here, and keep playing into the late game and see what pops up, anything interesting as far as other topics. Be sure to drop in the comments. I've had a lot of really helpful ones of stuff I missed, some of the finer points pointed out by more experienced players, so I always appreciate that. And we'll keep playing. I'm really enjoying this game and having fun kind of learning it along with you. So I hope you find it useful, and we'll see you next time.